Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Triangle BNI. My name is Mike Manning, and each week we bring you a small business success story from BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in central part of North Carolina, if you are not from here, is called the Triangle. That's Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Have 29 chapters going strong each week, 6 core groups trying to get to that point to be a full chapter, and almost 600 members related to small business, either own or work in one, that show up each week to help their fellow members grow their business. And if you've never been to a BNI meeting before, if you'll go to trianglebni.com, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a button that says Find a Chapter. If you click on that, you can punch in the day of the week you want to meet, the time of the day you want to meet to find out what's good for you. And we recommend you please go visit. You'll meet some wonderful people. And each week we bring you wonderful people like that. And our guest this week is Joe Woolworth, owner of Relevant Media Solutions. Joe, good to have you here today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike.
Couple of things you know about Joe that we'll get to. One is he has a black belt in media, which I like that. We'll get to that. And he's a fellow podcaster. First one on the show that's a fellow podcaster. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We like firsts on the show.
Yeah.
So you're a fellow podcaster. Joe is in RDO2. It's called Carry Connections. They meet Monday mornings at 8:30 at the Maiden Inn. And you just came from your meeting and you said it went well.
Yeah, we had our visitors day.
All right. About how many people showed up?
I'd say we probably had 10 visitors.
All right. Couple of potential new members.
Hope so.
All right. What kind of seats is your chapter looking for to fill while you're talking to everybody about all this?
Well, we got a good amount of seats. We're looking for people in the trades.
Okay.
We're looking for an attorney. We're looking for family photography.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We're looking for commercial real estate.
Okay.
And yeah.
And your meeting is a good time for trades because they can come to the 8:30 meeting, be gone by about 10 and have the rest of the day to do stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know in BNI, the groups that meet at lunch struggle getting trades because it's tough to tell your client, hey, I'll be back in 2 hours and finish the job. They probably don't go that way, but the morning meetings for trades are real good. So we wish you luck on that. First question I always ask people is we're in latter part of May right now. So how's 2019 business been for you and for Relevant Media Solutions?
So it's kind of like an inaugural thing for me. I was doing my business as a side hustle for many years, like a lot of people do as freelancers. And I think since 2007-ish, I've been running Relevant Media Solutions. And for the last about 8 years, 9 years, I'd been on staff at a large church in the area, and I've been doing that. But
We'll talk about that.
January was the time that I decided to pull the ripcord and go out and do the business thing full time.
And one of the things I love about BNI, and I tell people each week, I'm a big proponent of that. My brother and I started 2 businesses strictly through BNI. Is we all come from different backgrounds, age-wise, part of the country, how we got started in that. What all went into that decision to make 2019 to leave the church, to start a Relevant Media, go on your own, and just show that you're all in for this?
Yeah, a good question. I think there was a lot of things going on in my life, like a swirl of decision-making factors. I lost my dad that year. It was a tough year for the family. Cancer.
Yep.
Passed
Me too.
away.
Yep.
And the work stress was, I mean, I wouldn't say that it was more than it had been in the past, but I was responsible for a lot. Hope is a great church. And but I was happened to be responsible primarily for stuff that happened on the weekend. And my kids are getting to the age now where they're getting ready to do the weekend sports things and be involved in stuff. And my job wasn't going to change.
Right.
It was the weekend related. We have services all throughout the weekend at Hope Community Church. And so I decided, now's the time. Never going to get a redo on high school years. My oldest is going into high school.
I hear you.
And so decided it was time to finally make the jump, as well as my wife has a really good, solid job.
Oh, good.
Gave us
But that's a
ability
factor.
to,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I always joke that very few people on their deathbed say, I should have worked more.
Yeah.
They did. Give me your best dad story, because I lost my dad, same thing, to cancer a couple of years ago. But give me your best dad story.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I grew up in pretty rural Michigan. And so the big thing to do on the weekend for us was fish.
Okay.
And so dad and I were going fishing, and we were riding down to the reservoir. We had a reservoir by our house. And so we decided to ride bikes, which was weird that my dad wanted to ride bikes with me. I think he would have been, 40s that time, that he decided to ride bikes. And there's this big hill called Dead Man's Hill that we were riding down on the way there, and, you pick up speed or whatever, and my dad's bike had this wobbly wheel in the front, and for whatever reason, he decided that the right time to adjust this wobbly wheel thing was going fast. And so he decided to just kind of take one foot off the pedal and kick that front wheel and get it
Oh,
going in
no.
time. And he's carrying his tackle box, and I got the poles, and he goes up over the over this over the handlebars and bounces like twice on his butt. And there's that moment, like have you ever seen like with your parents, you're like, "Can I laugh at this?
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
this
yeah.
okay?"
Oh, yeah.
There was this moment and he just started laughing, and I
Good.
started laughing, and it was, we got back on the bikes and went fishing, but, it
Because
was
he knew at that very moment when his foot touched the wheel that this was a bad idea,
yeah,
right?
he probably knew, like, on the way to the wheel, yeah.
That's funny. Was he born and raised in Michigan?
Yeah, yeah, he
Okay.
grew up in pretty much
Alright,
the same area that we were in, his family's still there.
alright.
Woolworths, not the Woolworths with the 5 and
Well, I was
dime.
gonna ask that, yeah, so I was gonna congratulate you on inheriting all that, but
Yeah,
we can move on, so, did you do ice fishing as well?
I never got into ice fishing, no. I mean,
Okay.
a lot of people there do
Yeah.
ice fish, but I never did. It was, it's nothing we ever got into. It's always seemed a little strange to me to drive your car out on the lake.
Yes, I'm with you on that, yeah,
Um,
and then build a fire
yeah.
on the ice
And then
to
but
keep
first
your tent
but
warm,
first drill
yeah.
a hole in it
Yeah, right.
before you start a fire. Yeah.
It's got all the elements of a disaster, doesn't it? And I've seen those in movies and TV shows, I'm the
Oh,
same
yeah.
thing as you, like,
It's
"No,
always
I
like
don't."
once or twice a year, cousin Jeff lost a snowmobile. Like, lost in the bottom of the lake. We'll get it in the summer.
Oh, love that. If you have never been to a BNI meeting, each week there's a featured speaker. And depending on the size of your chapter, it's usually 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And that's their chance to stand up and talk more about themselves and their company. And it's one of the benefits of being a BNI. We always introduce the guest with the member bio sheet. So, Joe, this is how we do it here. So, this is how we're going to do it today.
Alright. Hoping
Joe,
I updated this.
I'll ask you if you haven't. So, I know what you wrote down last time. We'll see if it matches and we'll go from there. Joe Woolworth, owner, Relevant Media Solutions. You've owned it. You started it in 2007,
Yes.
but you're officially just Relevant Media since January 2019.
Correct.
Okay,
Up
right,
until then, it was side hustle.
right. Which we'll talk about that, which are kind of good things. Years in business, so we'll call that 12.
Mhm.
And it's you build and promote websites for people. And we're going to get into more about that why, but is that kind of the gist of it? It started as a building websites for people.
Yeah, primarily,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you have a friend? Do you remember the first website you built?
First website I built, I probably would have been the first version of Relevant Media's website. I think the first paid website that I built was most likely a some church's website. I
Okay.
built a lot of church
And
websites.
in 2007, what was the computer you built that first website on?
Oh, a Hewlett Packard, the one that had, like, the blue on it back when they were trying to look like the Macs forever back then when
Yeah.
they sold that 1 year, they tried to make them look like the Mac Pros.
Amnon's dying over here. He's like, "Yeah, I remember that one." Oh, admit
Trying to
that. You
think.
you used that one too. Did WordPress exist back then? Or
Uh,
what'd you build it what format did you build it on?
no, when I first got started, I was building in Dreamweaver, so,
Oh, my.
this was back before there was a CMS, which is what WordPress is, or a content management
Okay.
system where you could log into the back end. So back when I first started, bought my first Creative Suite pack when it was Creative Suite 2. And so this was back when it was push and pull through FTP and you were doing everything from scratch yourself. So if you
Okay.
wanted a picture, you put it there and then you wrote the code and there was not a lot of shortcuts back in the day.
So it's a little different today is what I'm
Oh,
hearing from you.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little easier.
Yeah. And it's made for the rise of a lot of people that live in that niche, like
Yep.
Wix and companies like that, that have found ways to make it easier for kind of consumers or people that don't want to hire a firm to do their website to
Yep.
try and do it themselves.
Previous types of jobs, I have those. I'm not interested in those yet, but
Yeah.
I need a good high school story growing up in a small town in Michigan
Yeah,
of a
so high
previous
school
job.
growing up, so I had all kinds of fun jobs out there. I worked at a Christmas tree farm, which that's
Okay.
fun. You get to ride a four-wheeler around, the family picks out their tree, and then you get to chop it down and,
Oh, really?
put it in a
Okay.
little bag and
All right.
stick it in their
In the
car.
snow or the ice or the
Oh,
sleet,
yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah.
cold in Michigan for
Okay.
sure. I worked as a sandwich artist at a Subway,
An
which is what
artist. I
yeah,
like
that's
that.
what they put on your name tag when
Yeah.
you work at Subway, sandwich artist. I don't know if it was very artistic,
Yeah.
but I do remember it was when I first started dating my wife, and, it was a franchise, and the guy who owned it never worked there, so often I worked alone, and so, like, we often, like, made out in the freezer.
Okay.
My wife would come up and visit the Subway there,
I
or
like that.
my soon My soon-to-be
Soon to be,
wife, I
yeah.
said. Yeah.
Your girlfriend yeah, at the
Mhm.
time.
That's cool.
Yeah, literally. I like that. The first time you had to cut that sandwich, the foot long in half,
Uh-huh.
did you give it a nice straight slice through the middle of it to
I don't remember, man. I'll tell
okay.
you what, it's hardly sandwich artistry. It's not tough to chop a piece of bread in half and follow the formula that they have written there above the sneeze guard.
Well, it's good food, and I appreciated when they went to the day of salads, so if you don't wanna eat all that
Yeah,
bread, you can just have that foot long in a sandwich in a salad, and I love that.
yeah,
I'm big with that, so who would now, did a local guy own that? You said he
yeah,
was never there.
mhm.
Did you
I
know
think
him?
it
Is that
was
kinda how you got the job?
no, no, I just applied with everybody else. I think he owned a couple Subways.
Okay. Did you tell him because you could build websites, you were an artist, and therefore it would apply to
I wasn't building websites back then. I was in art class, maybe.
yeah, okay, maybe that
Yeah,
was it, right? That was on the top of your resume, right?
yeah,
Okay. Next part of the bio sheet is family, and you and
mhm.
your wife, Lori.
Yes.
I always ask this question too. How did you 2 meet, and do you tell it the same way?
I bet we do because I bet we would say something similar to like, I don't know, we knew each other from around. It's a small town we
Yes.
grew up in, and she was 2 grades ahead of me growing up. So there just wasn't that many kids. So I'm sure she knew I existed and I knew she existed. But it wasn't really that we met and had a conversation until we ended up meeting in youth group to a
Okay.
small church that was in town. And our first date, I didn't know it was a date. So it was close to my 16th birthday. I wore my Little League jersey, which happened to be green and yellow,
Okay.
RPM Auto Sales, blue sweatpants, some Voight sneakers. And we were hanging out with buddies, is what I thought.
Yeah.
And we went to go see a movie. And there's this place by where we grew up called Frankenmuth. It's like this tourist town. And we were just goofing around. What you do in Frankenmuth is you sample the fudge if you're cheap like we were. They had like a fudge shop. And I bought this Chinese yo-yo and I was like being annoying and hitting her with it and stuff. We went to go see a movie. And, I noticed, like, throughout the movie, we were really talking a lot more than I normally did with girls, and, I mean, obviously, I was attracted to her. I'm a teenage boy, and she was gorgeous.
2 years older than you
Yeah,
too,
2 years
yes.
older than me, but I think that was the factor I didn't even think it was a date,
Yeah.
right? But then afterwards, like, my buddy was like, "So how'd it go? Did you like the date?" And I was like, "Wait, hold on."
I
And so
wore
then
that.
I had to follow up and be like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm interested for sure." And then from that point on, I don't think we spent a day apart for like 2
Really?
years. Yeah, we just really 16 and she was 18 at the time,
Okay.
maybe 17.
Alright. Well, I like a small town where you go from a youth group to making out in the freezer at Subway.
Yeah,
Just that's what
they
that's a normal day,
overlapped.
right?
That was all in the same story.
You weren't letting her get away, right? "I'm working by myself, sweetie. Come on up tonight," right? Nice. Nice. 2 kids, 2 girls, right?
Yep,
Right? How
yep,
old?
Katie and Maddie, so, 15. Well, she's about to be 15
Oh,
soon.
man. You got driver's license
No,
plans and
she's gonna be
insurance.
14 soon. 2004. Yeah, 14 soon, sorry. So she's going into ninth grade, and then Maddie, who's going into 7th grade. She's
Mm.
currently just turned 12.
Who are they more like? Which one favors you versus Lori?
I think personality-wise, like, Katie's more like my wife, and Maddie's more
Okay. Alright. You guys on Saturday mornings kinda pair off that way sometimes and around the house or running
occasionally.
errands?
Yeah,
Okay.
occasionally.
You have 2 dogs, it says on here. I like the name of the second one, but tell us
Yeah,
the names of the 2 dogs.
Jazz and JPEG.
JPEG. Do tell. How do we get to JPEG, and what do you call them for short? Peg?
Yeah, I just call her JPEG.
Okay.
It's a file extension. If you're a
Yeah.
nerd, you've ever seen save something on your so there's really
Oh,
not a lot of thought that went into it. I just thought it was funny.
okay. Did the girls get it when they got older,
No,
where it came from, or is they still
I don't think so.
okay.
The other dog is named after a Disney princess, Jasmine.
Yeah,
So
okay.
Maddie got the name.
Alright,
So
that'll work. And those are good stories for kids, like
yeah.
naming their first dog and things like that.
Yeah, we had other dogs before, and I finally got to pick this one, so I was pretty specific
JPEG.
about the kinda dog that I wanted and wanted to name it something.
Hobbies and activities of interest.
Yeah, so for me, I like woodworking.
Mhm.
Woodworking's a passion of mine. I like building stuff just in general. So I think that's
Cool.
part of websites.
Yep.
Any kind of project thing. I always tend to remodel whatever house we move into, pretty much down to the studs. I like to
Nice.
think that I'm handy, or I don't let my non-handiness stop me from doing stuff.
You're handy enough
I'm handy enough.
where you don't have
Yes.
to call in somebody after
Oh, I
you've done
should.
something,
No, I
but you haven't
should.
had to yet.
I haven't had to
Okay,
yet.
well, we'll go with that then. City of residence?
So I'm in Cary.
All right. How long
Mhm.
you been there?
We've been there for, I think, 9 years, 10
All
years.
right. Oh, by the way, what's Lori do? We didn't even
She's a director of operations at a community home trust in Chapel Hill, Carborough, and they do
Okay.
affordable housing.
Oh, cool. Okay. Your burning desire is to?
My burning desire is help people grow.
Mhm.
I don't know what I wrote there. What did I
Pretty
write
close.
there?
Help people tell a better story with their lives.
Yeah, I
Is
love
that
that
close?
phrase. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the idea of telling a better story.
And we'll get to that because that theme goes all throughout who you are
Mhm.
and what you do for the business. So we'll get to that. Key to your success. You can't read. You got to remember.
The key to my success.
Yes.
I probably put something because this is the truth. I have a good work ethic. I got it from
You.
my dad,
That's half right.
and
Yep.
and I really want to see people succeed.
Okay.
So I think that's the combination.
You put the support of my wife and my work ethic.
Oh
So
yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely the first thing that
there
I
you
should
go.
have said.
Okay. Many people watching don't know you well yet, which they will by the end of the show. Tell us something no one knows about you.
No one knows about me. I think I know what I wrote on the sheet. I spent a season in Mississippi teaching sex ed in like 13 counties, which is normally a task that's relegated to like grandmothers, who
Yes.
usually are the ones that write the grant and get the grant. It was abstinence that we were teaching.
How'd you get hired to do that? Were you a teacher in the schools?
No, not
Or
a
did they
teacher in
just
the
see
school at
this
all.
nice, gentle,
I don't
trustworthy
know.
face with no facial
At the
hair on it
time I
yet?
was working at I was helping out working at a church there, and it seemed like a good idea to me to get to meet some of the high schoolers. I was working in the youth ministry,
Okay.
so I'd get to go teach in health class.
Okay.
I'd pick like a day like Thursday, and I'd go teach
Mm,
every health class, and it's fun. I got to get really good at those presentations.
there you go.
I have no idea why they hired me.
Well, and my natural follow-up question is, did you learn anything teaching that class? But we'll move on probably.
Yeah, no,
So,
I learned a lot teaching that class. So we were in Mississippi, and so I probably taught thousands of kids, like my whole spiel, which is like a 9-week thing.
mm,
Um, and so what would happen often that was not great is we'd be out around town, and some teenage girl or teenage guy would be like, "Oh, hey, mom and dad, that's the sex guy from my school." It's awkward every time.
yeah,
Never got less
yeah,
awkward.
the
My
sex
wife was almost always with me, and there would be like that moment of defensiveness. So I'd be like, "That's not what they mean.
Yeah.
Like I didn't. That's not what the class is." Uh,
Was this before or after Subway?
yeah, this was after. This was after Subway. Uh, the other thing I learned too is if you do something for long enough, you realize. Well, let me just say this: a lot of teenage girls who went through my class got pregnant in
Oh, good.
Mississippi.
Okay. Well, then,
Yeah,
all right.
so not 100% effective rate as far as the abstinence teaching goes.
It's a great chapter in your book. So I'm sure there's more to come on that. We are here with Joe Woolworth, owner of Relevant Media Solutions. First thing he started doing with the company was building websites. What do we as consumers, current small business owners, soon to be small business owners, think we know about what our website should look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I think the thing that most people think that they really know is what helps their product be easy to buy. And I think that's the thing that most small business owners get wrong. Because the
Yep.
things that might work in real life when you know somebody, it's usually trust and empathy that's helping you close the sale.
Okay.
And you probably say something along the lines of benefits and features, but they usually know you and they're doing business with you. And I think that's one of the things that people seemingly get wrong the most when I visit a client's website is that it's all about their features and benefits, almost like this is why we're the hero and you should do business with us. And the problem with that, although it's really good information, people want to know that you're good at what you're good at. They want to have trust and they want to have empathy in you as a business. Is that you haven't done the thing that they went there for, which is
Yeah.
tell them what problem you're solving, and
Right.
how you help them, so
Yeah.
that they can be like, "Oh, this website's for me." And I think that's usually the first challenge that I notice with a small to medium sized business that's decided to either go it on their own, or another common problem that I hear is I've worked with this website guy. He helped me out, and he built exactly what I wanted. And I'm like, "What the hell did I pay you for?" Like, if I knew how to build a good website, I'd be selling websites. And so I think the big missing component in where I really like to get involved is with the strategy side.
Yeah.
Like, what is an effective strategy for helping whatever the business is identify the need that they're solving, format the data in a way that makes it memorable. And so
Yes.
if you go to my website, I say all the time, and I say it in my elevator pitch that marketing is storytelling. And the reason I say that is because it's an exercise in memorization. There are paths that are carved in our brain that have been there for a long time. I think we talked about this before. I don't know if you've ever saw the idea of what's called a desire path. If you're
Mhm.
listening at some point, just Google that. It's like
Yeah.
a fun thread on Reddit. But the idea is there are these, if you're a college campus and there's a grid of sidewalks all over, there'll be a path that's beaten down off to the side, which because people vote with their
Yeah.
feet. That's actually the way they want it to go. But you're over here putting the sidewalk over here or the staircase over here because you think you know better. This is where they want to go. I see this over and over again on people's websites. People have a problem that they want to get solved. They know how they want to get there. And we're serving up information with elaborate staircases and things like
Yeah.
we want to make them read all this information and we're not helping them get to exactly where they're going quickly.
Yeah.
And so I believe that that's storytelling. I think that's the channel for this.
It's almost they want it to look sexy and colors
Yeah.
and all that stuff instead of being functional.
Yeah.
And and you and I talked last week a little bit about this. That's usually, wouldn't say that's a death of a website, but the company, you've got plenty of
Mhm.
stories
Yeah.
about how you've gone, no, no, let me give you a
It
little
should be
expertise here.
pretty. Like it can
Yeah.
be both. It can be pretty and functional.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You should shoot for that. You shouldn't have to pick one or the other.
Right.
But unfortunately, there are companies like I mentioned Wix earlier. You can give them $25 and design a website, and their mission statement is we design beautiful websites. And they do that. They're good at it. And if that's all you want is a beautiful website, you should absolutely use Wix. It's very affordable. But at the same time, that's not really what business owners want. They
Right.
want a website that works for them. They want one that sells their product. They want one that sells their services. They want one that tells their story well. And I think the difference between just pretty and functional is strategy.
Right.
And I think the strategy that makes the most sense for running your website through is this idea of story.
And when you and I were talking last week, that was one of the things that jumped out at me because we're laughing there because you started talking real techy
Mhm.
and you lost me for a minute. And as soon as you said storytelling,
Yeah.
because that's what this show is about. People told us they love the
Right.
stories. And you they and I told you that I've met other website designers and their pitches will grow your business X number.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how. They just tell you they'll do that. But what stuck out with our conversation was the minute you said, I'm all about developing the storytelling to help the business
Yeah.
tell the customer why they should do business with them.
Yeah. So it's an exercise in using the principles that make storytelling effective and applying it to your business.
Mhm.
I think sometimes people can hear like, I want to help tell your story, like a great about page is all of a sudden going to make
Yeah.
your business go way up. And I think people want to know you because they want to do business with people they know, like,
Mhm.
and trust. But at the same time, I'll give you an example. I think I told you this example from a client that I'm working with. He sells fences.
Yes.
And, great guy, does a great job, fantastic at fences. And what I notice with most people when I do their website, they're really good at what they're good at. They've already done the hard work to become experts in their field, develop a process. And the idea of putting that online is a challenge. Like, I know what I'm good at.
Yep.
And so he was one of those guys that was, I really want somebody to help give me ideas on what to do better was kind of what was going through his mind. And so when I started Relevant up in the January, I spent some time focusing on, all right, how do I want to sell my services? And I think when people buy a website, they're not buying a product, they're buying a process. So I
Mhm.
spent a whole month just right now what my process is. And then running a couple people through it, doing interviews with clients. And Jerry was one of those guys
Mhm.
early on. I said, this is what I believe I
Yep.
can accomplish for you. This is what I want to do. And so the first step is just going through that strategy section, finding out the story component of it. So I go through this process that's based off of Donald Miller's Story Brand, which is a great book if you're interested more and
Okay.
you're like, oh, let's talk more about story stuff, or you want to learn more about that. That's a great book. Um, and so went through there, said, all right, who's the main character? What's that character's problem?
Mhm.
And how do they meet that guide, that person in it? So if you think like movies, right? Every movie has a character who has a problem.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of the movie. It's only the first 11 pages in the script. You don't set that up well, nobody's interested in your movie. And then what a lot of small businesses, it might seem counterintuitive, but it's a powerful principle when you unlock it, is they think that they're the hero in the story.
Mhm.
Like in this case, the fence company is going to be the one that comes in and fixes it because he's really great at fences. But like Zig Ziglar has that great quote about sales, and he says, people don't go to the store to buy a drill; they go to the store to buy the 3/8 hole. The drill is the means to the end.
Mhm.
They need the
Gotcha.
hole. And so with your services, it's fun to think about it in that terms for a service industry. And so Jerry already had the majority of his story told. He has this great story about being a cop, serve and protect. This is the way he's wired. He's a giant man, like 7 foot
Yep.
tall, and he just really wants to protect and serve. And so when he got into making fences, it was about helping people protect their family and their investment. And so he was like 90% of the way there, already very successful. And so like applying this principle, saying, what if, because his logo is him kind of like this in front of a fence, and it says serving and protect, protect your home, protect your investment, all good stuff. And what we did was identify that if we made this little tweak and said, what if Jerry's fencing company isn't the hero in the story? What
Mm.
if the customer's the hero? And the problem that they are coming to him to solve is they want to protect their loved ones, their
Yeah.
pets. They want to protect their investment. And so we made a little bit of tweak. We changed the above the fold offer to we make buying fences fast and easy so you can protect your loved ones and your investment. And we started taking pictures of satisfied customers in front of the
Yeah.
fence and made them the hero in the story. And that little tweak right there, if you look at his traffic year over year, made the amount of people that click to get a custom quote from his website go up by 110%, which is pretty phenomenal.
I think a lot of times, especially in BNI, when we all in a BNI meeting, we go around the room and we either have 30 seconds, 45 seconds, or 60 seconds to talk about our company. And a lot of times, people, and when I do my training, I emphasize storytelling because they'll stand up and tell me what they do,
Right.
but they don't tell me why
Right.
or how. And the what, okay, yeah, you build websites.
Yeah.
Excellent. Tell me the why. And that's why I love the storytelling part of
I
it.
think a lot of people like websites seem to be when I'm doing my elevator pitch, one of those things that make people's eyes glaze over. People in my industry uh, can be a they can turn people off in a couple of ways. We can come across like a little bit of used car salesman, and some of it's fear mongering. Like everything's a 3 letter acronym in the web world.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
your SEO stinks, and if you're not using SEM, then you're SOL. Um, and so it's kind of almost like you don't know what you don't know, so you got to give me all kinds of
Mhm.
money. And so client education seems to be something that is um, a way that I am seemingly separating myself from the
Mhm.
field because I love to help people understand what it is and what it isn't. And I think so. We were talking about this very idea, and I actually tried. I went to a networking meeting the night that you and I met last
Okay.
time because we were talking, and you were saying like when I talk the technical stuff,
Oh, man,
and
I'm
then when we
gone.
talk
Yeah,
talk about stories. So I went to
love
a
it. Yeah,
networking group, and I decided I wasn't going to say websites or media company the whole night.
like
And
it.
so when somebody's like, "What do you do?" I'm a story. What does that mean? I said, "Well, I get to leverage the power of story to help your customers make your services and products easy." Pretty cool stuff. And then I make them ask me questions.
Mhm.
And interestingly enough, I got 3 one-on-ones out of that meeting, and I never
Telling you,
said that
man.
I built websites.
Yep.
It's pretty phenomenal.
We are all and the longer I do this, the training part of it and also the speaking part, we all have stories that we the best way for me to describe my brother to you is through a story.
Yeah,
I can tell you he's done this, then you're like, okay, I can give you a story.
yeah,
And it's just, it is all life is all about the stories. People love telling stories,
right,
and other people love hearing a story told about them.
right.
So I'm glad you had some success on that.
Yeah,
My commission is a large sweet tea. We
okay.
talked about that earlier. But it's true though, because there's some industries that just turn people off. Because when I go, oh, I do pest control, if they don't have a problem, they're like, "Huh."
Yeah, yeah,
So, but the storytelling part of it, people can relate to that. So I'm
yeah.
glad you did that. All right, we are here with Joe Woolworth, owner of Relevant Media Solutions. Been has had the company going since 2007. Went out on his own full time 2019. He's in RDO2, which is Carry Connections. They meet Monday mornings at 8:30 at the Maiden Inn. Please go visit. You'll meet some good people there. You are, again, we talked about first earlier in the show. I think making out in the Subway freezer was a first as
Yeah,
well.
I think my wife's gonna be real stoked that
Fellow
I decided to tell
podcaster,
that
Lori,
story.
how are you? Glad to have you on the show. At
That's all
least
right.
through a story, again, through
She's
a
not gonna
story.
watch this. It's alright.
Oh, I'll find her. I'll find her. So, North Central University
Yeah,
in Michigan.
Minneapolis.
Okay, in Minneapolis, but you are from, hang on a sec, Otisville, Michigan.
Correct.
Now, I Googled this over the weekend while I was doing
Mhm.
some research. The census in 2010 was 864 people.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. Did you know most of them?
I think growing up there So I think people don't understand this about a small town. Like, so we were a county school, which means there's like
Okay.
a 17-mile gap between where everybody went to school together. And there just weren't that many kids,
Yeah.
like 800. So absolutely, I knew every kid, which means I knew their parents, which
Mhm.
we were all on our bikes all the time. So like I knew everybody down my road. Like I knew who lived in that house, what they did, which is just kind of par for the course for a small town. And yeah, but it was a small town. I had a cornfield behind me,
Okay.
and a cow pasture in front of me, our house.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yep, I got one sister.
Okay. Older or younger?
She's older.
Okay. What's her name?
Julie.
Okay. Were you known? Oh, that's Julie's brother,
Um,
or Julie's my older sister.
I think probably.
Okay. And is
Yeah.
that how you knew some of your friends? You met them. Oh, that's so and so's
Yeah.
older,
So she
younger.
was 2 years, 2 grades ahead of me.
Right.
So yeah, there was definitely like that's Julie's friend group,
Yeah.
and it's the people that are a couple years
And you were
older.
not allowed in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except Lori was 2 years older.
Okay.
So
Did
yeah.
they know each other, Lori and Julie?
Yeah.
Probably did,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm
All
sure
right.
if they were in the same class.
Right. So did Julie wave Lori off and go, he's a dork. He's my little brother.
I don't know. She tried. She failed. I don't think she would have done that.
But yeah, I've got an older sister, 2 years older than me. And when the little brother tries to horn in on the bigger sister's group of friends, who are
Yeah.
generally all girls,
Yeah.
it sometimes doesn't go well. Get the
Yeah.
wave off pretty quick on that stuff. But and we hear stories. I did not grow up in a small town, but I love the stories on that. It's both good and bad that you know everybody.
Yeah. Well, it's good in the sense for my parents. Like I couldn't get away with stuff. Like everybody was gonna tell on you.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's no
Yeah.
like when somebody got TP'd, which is something that we do
Mhm.
when we're bored in a small town, which is throw toilet paper over their trees. Like somebody's gonna know if
Yeah.
somebody saw you and they're gonna tell your mom. Like it's gonna happen. Um, but yeah. So I mean, it's not great when you're a kid and you're trying to get away with stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess we weren't trying to get away with that much stuff.
When I do my research for the show, I Google everybody, and sometimes stuff comes up where, I'm probably not going to bring that up on the show.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, that's kind of neat to know. On your Facebook page, you have listed, I forget under what category it is, skills or something like that. You're an office rerun expert.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What is that?
Oh, I've seen The Office all the way through
Oh, the
like 5 or 6
show.
times.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you just lost me right there.
I don't know if
Seriously.
you've
Okay.
ever if you ever play that game, that trivia game, that app that oh, what's it called? It comes on every night.
I can tell you the game I played to the show I played, but I'm years older than you. But
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead.
called I forget what it's called. It got really popular and then I forget about it all the time.
It was a
but-
drinking game, right?
No, it's not a drinking game. It's an
Oh.
app game where you compete against other people for money.
Okay.
And I'm totally blanking on the
No,
name
that's
right
okay.
now.
When I was growing up, and Amnon might know this, there was Bob Newhart
Mhm.
had a show. And within the show, he would walk into a room, they'd say, "Hi, Bob." College drinking game. "Hi, Bob."
Yeah.
And they probably said that 16, 18 times a show.
Yeah.
Hilarious. But okay, so Office the show rerun. Okay.
Yeah.
I
and
thought it was
anyways-
something cool, but
anyways, I
yeah.
won that game.
Oh,
when,
did you?
When Office came
I
out.
never watched the
It is
show.
cool.
Yeah, you like
I
it.
never watched the show, so
It's fun.
I was busy raising, starting all this stuff. It's a huge monopoly I run. I don't have time to watch.
That's
all
the
that
big joke. I love that internet meme that you see all the time. It's like looking for something to watch on
Yeah,
Netflix.
yeah.
Screw it, watch The Office again. That's how I watch Netflix.
Now, my wife watched the British version of it early on,
Yeah.
and liked that, but we never got around to watching the American version of it. So, now you had a couple of different roles at Hope Community Church,
Yeah.
right off here off of Buck Jones Road.
Mhm.
You were there from 2010 till this past December, basically. The church was bigger than Otisville, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Sure.
mean, your church was 3 times the size of the hometown you grew up in.
Yeah.
If
definitely.
you haven't been to Hope Community Church, it's a
Mhm.
massive, neat place. My old BNI group met there. Wonderful people there. They welcome you, but it's big,
Yeah.
man.
It's a big church.
Yeah.
So they might have about 10,000 on the
Oh,
weekend
yeah.
across their campuses. And what's cool about Hope? Well, I really liked working there. One of the things that drew me to work there, I went to school to be a pastor,
Mhm.
and so I'd been in and out of churches for forever on staff and whatnot. And when I went to visit churches in the area here when we moved to the area, well, I started writing this blog about church shopping
Mhm.
on a blog that I had at the time that's now been taken over by a Chinese company because I let it go. And so it's all like
Is that an
Chinese
exported
stuff.
job? Should we get
Yeah.
into that or not?
No,
So,
it's in
okay.
Chinese. I don't know what they're
Okay.
talking about. It's
Okay.
not me anymore. But
Oh, that's probably why it was it. Okay, because I clicked on that site. Okay.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Other Chinese. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's probably a disconnect, but now it's funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
so I stopped writing for it for a long time ago. And then when I finally let it go, decided to let it go.
Yeah.
What'll happen is they'll buy your website if it still has traffic. and so
Oh,
they'll
okay.
just put their traffic on there until your traffic dies off. So eventually, all the traffic that I was driving will die off, and they'll be done with me, and
Okay.
then they'll just let it go back to GoDaddy. But yeah, so I wrote this blog series about church shopping in the Triangle, and it was interesting. One of the tech guys at Hope Community Church, his name is Mark Hanna, was reading the blog for some reason and shot me a tweet and said, "Hey, you should come check out Hope. I'll give you the behind the scenes tour." So I was like, "Great, we'll check that out." I went and got to sit in the video booth and talk to Mark and their tech team and everything there, and just started going to Hope. Probably went there for about 3 months, and my wife said uh, a job came up in the bulletin at the time. They were running a bulletin for a communications director. My wife said, "You should apply for that." So I do what I'm told,
Hint, hint. Yeah. Exactly.
and
Good executive decision, by the
yeah.
way.
So then started working there. A fantastic place to
Yeah.
work.
Good people.
Mike Lee's he's an awesome founding pastor, and was really kind of unique about that place to me is working in the church. There's something that people in the church will call church face. Like you
Okay.
kind of pretend you're one way when you go to church, and then in reality you might be a completely different way.
Okay.
And one of the things I really appreciated about Hope Community Church was there didn't seem to be like church face.
Mm,
So in other words, people didn't feel the need to pretend that they were better than they were, kind of like we curate our life on social media.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that was very attractive to me as somebody who had spent the last 10 years working in a church where in some of those churches that was the case. And if you're a church goer like I was, like that was one of the goals to not do that, right? You
Yeah.
want to be genuine with people and you don't want to kind of curate your life for your church friends either. And so I remember really being impressed by Mike the first couple of times I talked to him. Oh, like you're the same when you're off the platform as you are when you're on the
Good.
platform. And yeah, so
And that helped you kind of develop your business on the production side a little bit
yeah,
because I know you do a podcast. Joe and Josh Manning do a podcast, guys who do things.com.
stuff.
Guys who do stuff.com.
Yeah.
And you built
Neither
out
one of those should you Google, by the way. Like
you
you want to type directly in
you
guys
own
who do stuff.com.
you own it, right?
Yeah, we own
Okay.
it.
All right. And but you built out a studio kind of similar to what we're
Yeah.
in now.
Mhm.
And part of that was some of the things you learned working at Hope,
Oh yeah,
correct?
man. I got to learn a lot working at Hope. So it was a big team of very creative people. I'd say some of the most creative people in the triangle. And there was just a ton of stuff that we got to do. I got to learn a lot about filmmaking when I was there. I actually spent some time, I think a couple years as a filmmaker on the team there, which kind of goes back to story
Mhm.
and just really defining what makes a fantastic story. And those principles are universal. And when you can stack them in the right order, there's just a got me kind of binging my way through books about storytelling, screenwriting, and just kind of became a student of what good storytelling is.
We know how busy churches get. We think 8:30 and 11 a.m. on Sunday.
Yeah,
But your weekends were jam-packed with
sure.
way
Yeah.
more than those 2 services, right?
Yeah. And we had a lot of resources pointing at the weekend. In other words, we'd spent a good amount of the time that week really focusing on this is what's going to go into this weekend service. So you didn't
Mm.
want to miss any of it. And you wanted to be early and you wanted to be prepared. And yeah, and I think there was really a culture of excellence at Hope Community Church that kind of for people that are wired like creatives that want to do their best,
Mm.
it makes it a very attractive place to work because nobody's like, whatever, it's just another weekend. That's definitely not the approach taken. It's like we've worked really hard, or the people that go here have worked really hard. I'll tell you, this principle translates to business too. Like when you get yourself into a room with a client, it's game time
Mm.
and you want to be prepared and you want to put your best foot forward. And Mike would often use the principle or the story of it's like when you have a guest over to your house, you're going to clean. Your house is going to look nicer.
Did that for
Um,
the in-laws this weekend, absolutely.
you're going to use better china than the paper
Mhm.
plates you normally use.
Yeah.
You're going to step up
Yeah.
your dinner game a little bit.
Cut the grass,
Um,
pressure wash the front
that's right,
door.
the whole thing. You're going to do everything because you want them to have a good experience at your house,
Yes.
and you want them to come back. And I think that's a big component for churches as well.
Yeah.
Like you want them to have a good experience when they come and visit, and you would like them to come back. And so there's a one of the principles I learned about storytelling is there's a formula, and if you follow the formula, you increase your odds of success. And I think that there's a formula for an effective church service that I got to learn, like what makes it work in people's lives. And man, like I said, I just got to learn a lot. Yeah, Hope's a big church. I think
Oh,
people
yeah.
think like, oh, you work at a church, that's cute.
Oh, it's
Um,
a small town.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
think the time that I left, we were about 250 employees,
Yeah.
and I was yeah,
Yeah.
it's a large business.
Oh, yeah.
And they are essentially, and people get uncomfortable with this, but I mean, you can use the phrase selling,
Mhm.
and essentially what they're selling is a solution to a problem, which is very common that you see a lot in business. And my blog used to be called Marketing Jesus, and that would really upset people because they didn't like the idea of marketing in the church world, which was fun for me because then people would leave these fun, hateful comments. They'd be like, "Oh, you're missing the point. It's fine. It's okay. I think it's all right."
What did so in that time forming those thoughts about storytelling and knowing it's a small business, how does that apply now that you're in
Yeah.
BNI as a small business
I'll
owner?
tell you, like you talk about why, like my why. I was a little nervous leaving Hope because I got to work for this organization, one that I really believed in, and this cause that I really, and I was a little nervous that by going into like the business sector, like would I be able to get as motivated to help somebody do
Mm,
something that probably didn't have on my side as much appeal as the cause. And what I learned quickly was that it's not that different because when you boil it down to what I'm doing, I'm helping people tell a better story. I'm helping people grow.
yeah.
And that was like the ultimate goal from working Hope Community Church. Their mission statement is to love people where they are and help them grow
Mhm.
in their relationship. Um, and so I get to do that same thing. I get that same endorphin release. I still get to help people, which I think is a big lesson in growing up. You know, like the idea of what your role is not nearly as important as what your why is.
Yes,
And you can keep your why and change your role
agreed.
and still see that same kind of connection to your passion. Um, but I hadn't had the opportunity to do it to the degree that I have in the last 4 months, and it's been good.
You still have the connection with Hope?
Oh, yeah, love
Okay.
it. I still go
All right.
there all the time.
All right.
Yeah, we go there every week.
Okay. Some of the we're here with Joe Woolworth, owner of Relevant Media Solutions. You can go to relevantmediasolutions.com and check out all the services he can help you with. If you or somebody you know is starting a business, trying to grow one, he will help you tell your story. I think you've learned that today. And behind the curtains, usually in a show before we get started, Joe comes in and I don't like to ask a lot of questions because I want to hear the answers on the air just like everybody else does. So he and Amnon started geeking out
Mhm.
about all the equipment in the studio here that Amnon has to produce this show and the other shows he does here at Nissan Communications, and then the stuff Joe has built out in his house. And they lost me for a couple of minutes talking about soundboards and mixing and stuff like that. But you got a hold of some pretty cool toys at Hope Community though, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got to work with some pretty industry standard, but fantastic gear. And so I think when you have a budget for that, it's really fun to be in a position where you get to use the products that you would really like to use on a weekly basis. Because we obviously at our campuses we use IMAG, which is short for image magnification. So there's camera systems that are all tied into a video switcher in the back, and there's sound systems, and
Oh, you're drooling, aren't you?
yeah, it's
Walking
fun
back
stuff. I mean, I've
Right there.
we didn't use TriCaster, no, but,
Sorry.
Stop.
yeah, we could talk about the nerdy stuff all day,
Uh,
but let me tell you, this is what I don't think is nerdy, but I think is applicable. Like, the idea of podcasting.
yep.
I think what's making it so popular right now, it's something that's been around for a long time, it's content marketing.
Hmm,
It's a way to position yourself as a thought leader, it's a way to talk about what you know about, and to allow people to build trust and empathy with your brand to hopefully wanna do business with you at some point. And back when I was running Marketing Jesus, the typical way to do this was to write blog posts to leverage it into a book. And I feel like what's going on with podcasting now is, especially with some of the major car manufacturers putting Apple and Google into the next version of cars that are coming out, this is people's preferred way of consuming this information nowadays.
agreed.
They want to hear a conversation between some people. And I was joking with Josh in one of our last episodes. I hope this isn't the reason because it's a pretty sad reason. But we've become so bad at having hour-long conversations with people. It's like I just want to listen to one
Yeah.
and just
Oh
hear
yeah.
the way people interact, and it's engaging, and I feel like I'm there, and that's like a really sad reason. But I think we do want that kind of connection, that kind of relational connection. And I think that unlike the written word, which still has a place, I'm not saying blogging is going away or anything. This seems to be a very relational shortcut for people. You get to learn a lot about people's personalities if you get to tune into their podcast pretty regularly.
Yeah, and I love it because it's on demand,
Yeah.
it's mobile, And I was walking this morning listening to podcasts for that very reason, and it triggered something
Yeah.
I'm doing down the road on a new talk I'm putting together.
Yeah.
But the same things is because when I was growing up, we had 3 network channels, and that was it.
Yeah.
So we had to wait.
Mhm.
Oh, not till Thursday is our favorite show or, Monday Night Football, but it's Wednesday night. So we had to wait, and now you don't have to. And if you Google podcast under any topic you wanna hear about, 1,000 will come up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm with you. I love it. And especially with like my boys are 30, 32, and 29.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their world.
Right.
And my grandson Oliver, who I always try to bring into the show, and thanks for leading me into that. That's all he's 9.5 months old.
Yeah.
That's what they're gonna know.
Yeah.
Oh, that whole generation growing up.
My kids fall asleep to a podcast every night.
Really?
Yeah, this great I've listened to a couple with them. I mean, I haven't listened to as many as they have, but it's a storytelling podcast. It's basically 2 guys telling funny stories from their childhood, and, they listen to that, and they fall asleep.
Yeah. But and you're talking about on the go, there's obviously satellite radio, which is wonderful. You can get anything anywhere. My in-laws drove in from Texas. They were listening to the golf tournament
Yeah.
while they're driving, which is neat. But podcast takes it something further because you can
Yeah.
go, I'll listen to that tomorrow.
So
And
my
I'm with you. I love it.
my hope for podcasting, and I because this seems to be the way it always works. When a new media type comes out, there's mainstream, because that's how it has to cross the hurdle to be a real
Mhm.
thing. So it has mainstream success, and then everything kinda um, hyper geo becomes about the city, very geolocation. I'm thinking in
Okay.
Google terms. Like,
Yeah.
everything about Google's algorithm now is to drive people to near me.
Right.
And so I'm really hoping we start to see that switch with podcasts, because it would be really enjoyable to get to listen to people who are in your area talk about things that are area centric. And I think shows like ours, and that's what we get to do. We get to talk to business owners who are from
Absolutely.
here and talk about like what the city's doing, and just because it's our neighborhood, and it makes it more interesting. It's like talking to your neighbors.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show because there are so many hidden stories in this town.
yeah,
You and I are barely a blip on the screen compared to landmark businesses and,
right.
and names of people stuff we've heard. So, but I'm with you on that. There's plenty of
It's
stories.
it's it's the situation just like it was with radio stations years ago. It was all local
Mhm.
programming.
Yeah.
Suddenly, oh yeah, we can go and get it from all over, and people started losing interest because I don't. What do I care about
Yeah.
this? And what do I care about that? Now this is bringing it sort of like back
Yeah,
because radio station lost that local stuff because they wanted to charge an arm and a leg, and here you can sit at home and do it, and people still
yeah.
can listen to you.
Oh yeah,
It will happen.
Yeah.
yeah. No,
I hope so. I'm rooting for it.
yeah, I'm with you. And let's dovetail a little bit more on that, taking it one step further into branding. So um, you have guys who do stuff.com,
Mhm.
you have joewoolworth.com,
Right.
and you have relevantmediasolutions.com.
Mhm.
So for people out there that have a small business or thinking about, okay, here's the next step I need, what's the reason and the process for
Sure.
tying those all together?
Well, if you're talking about like why I have 3 separate sites, it really depends on the audience you're going after. So if you wanted to build a website that is a lead generator or a way that people find out about you, one of those 3-letter acronyms that people often use is SEO, search
Mhm.
engine optimization. It's the way that we, as people who build websites, understand the way that Google wants us to organize our information so that we can be found by these little online search spiders.
Yes.
So it's a fun way to think about the internet gets crawled by what are these digital programs that are going to go to every website, look for key bits of information so they can organize it effectively. They want to know who it is. This is an email, etc. And so Google now says, thanks to this company or this thing called caffeine, that they're crawling the entire internet every 20 minutes, which is pretty fantastic when you
Wow.
think about it. And so if you're going after a target audience, you really want to be focused on one of the elements that makes successful SEO, which is your keywords. And so if you're doing greatly different things, I would suggest you probably don't want one website with a bunch of greatly different things, because it'll be harder for people to find you when they search for you.
Gotcha.
Um, but so that's a little bit of the difference in
And
why
it
I've decided to do
y-
multiple websites. And I have tons of websites that I've just bought because I
couldn't
thought
even
they were
find
good
yet. Okay.
ideas, and I'm going to build something there later.
But it is all about content, and Google wants to know that you are refreshing your site with video or the written word
Yeah.
on a I don't know what their definition of a regular business is, but not once a month.
Yeah, I mean, I can just demythicize a little bit about what SEO is and isn't. There's a
Go
lot
ahead.
of really bad approach for marketing that comes from people in my specific seat where they might run like a search on your website. You can use a free third party tool like Website Grader, and they'll give you a grade on your website on things like your speed, your
Oh,
do you
okay.
have a site map, do you have the components that we know or we think we know are parts of the algorithm that makes a website easily to search. And so they'll use that as like, look, you're failing, and they'll put a postcard in the mail in hopes that they'll hire you to help make them not fail. But what we do know for a fact is that that's the way Google makes money. They make money from selling us ads in their
Yes.
search algorithm. And so they're not going to tell us the components that make up their search algorithm. But what they are going to tell us is what their mission statement is, which is to usefully organize the world's data. So from their mission statement standpoint, they're trying to serve up the best answers for the people using their search engine. So if you type in pest control, Google's job is to get them what they believe based on all the stuff that they know is the best pest control person for them to call. And so some of the parts that make up successful SEO are the keywords that you're using.
Mhm.
What words are people searching for? Do you show up there? Your website's traffic is important. The amount of backlinks, quality backlinks to, and what they mean by that is other sites that have linked to you that like vouch for
Yes.
you. So if you're
Okay.
talking pest control, like are you rated good on Angie's List? Do you
Yeah.
have a Facebook page, etc.? Are you then they've got the Google business page, which is another component. Do you have a properly formatted Google business page? There's a lot of rules that we can follow. And this is the part that I feel like we don't do a good job as website professionals communicating. The best that we can do is properly follow what we now know is the best way to set up your SEO. The companies that are like, I can guarantee you number one SEO, they're lying. They're gonna make it better than it was because 'cause they're
Okay.
trying. They're absolutely gonna make it better than it
We've
was.
seen those
But
companies.
you
Yeah.
can't
They don't lie. They come up with keywords like abracadabra 17, and they say, "Search for it." Oh, yeah, I'm number 1. What? But who's
Yeah.
gonna search for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the challenge is like if you're like me, and I think a lot of people are, you're just really taking it seriously now, or you're kind of new to the area. You would be better to spend your time focusing on having people find you. Like what makes you unique and help make sure people understand that. Go to networking groups. Do the hard work
Yeah.
of because I'm not going to compete with Centerline Digital downtown right now.
Right.
Like for a Google search on a I want somebody to build my website. And they're not actually going after the same clientele that I'm going after. But that's kind of how SEO works. We're kind of both going after web design and
Yeah.
strategy. And so I think I like to use this analogy. It's kind of like businesses are like the girls on The Bachelor, and we're all just getting primped and ready to go, and
Okay.
we're just hoping that Google will pick us and give us that
And
rose. Um,
okay.
but we
I
really
like it.
don't know what Google's looking for, and they're
Right.
not going to tell us.
In a lot of things, when you go back to the keywords, if you can't think of the word handyman, you might type in, I need someone that can put up
Sure.
drywall.
Yeah,
And Google would go, so that would
absolutely.
so if you're the handyman website, you need to make sure drywall and
Yeah.
keywords like that, everybody that they basically talk it into the search box.
Oh yeah. Well, if you hired a SEO firm, they would do all the hard work on the
Yep.
back end. And what they would do is they would build a page out that has the answers to common drywall questions and try to have a page on their website that relates to drywall.
Mhm.
And they might have 800 pages on your website to try and pick up all those keywords. If this is something that's interesting to you, you can Google has a free tool called Keyword Planner. So whatever it is that you're selling or your service that you're selling, you can go there and you can type in your address and what kind of range you're searching for, and they'll tell you how many people are searching for the word that you are going after.
Right.
And
Yep.
you might find out that suggested keywords there that 10,000 people might be searching for the word you're going after, but 100,000 people are searching for this word, which is an indicator that you should probably go after
Yeah.
that word. Uh,
It's
Coca-Cola.
yeah. Alright, let me stop you here. So, keyword planner,
mhm.
keywordplanner.com, or just type in keyword
You got to
planner?
go to Google Analytics, and they're always changing their name.
Okay.
But right now it's Google/Analytics is what I go to, and they just
Okay.
actually renamed it again. I don't
Alright.
remember what the
And
name
the
is
other
now.
They keep changing
okay,
these things in order to
2, yeah.
circumvent this.
And then the other tip you gave us was the one for grading their website.
Yeah, Website Grader. I think.
Website grader?
Yeah, I'm trying to
Okay.
remember who did that. I think that's HubSpot. Maybe.
Alright.
Yeah, Citrix
Okay.
is another good one, and some of them are super nerdy. And
But those are things people can do if they have a website and either they built it themselves or somebody built it for them and then said, "Hey, I'm done here. I
yeah,
built that." They can at least check out and find out how good a job
yeah,
that went. And then they know they're going to call you at relevantmediasolutions.com.
Sure.
Hey, this is where I
Just,
am and
I
I'm
mean, like
lost.
anything, take it with a grain of salt. A
Yeah.
lot of the people that have the graders are also selling you the services,
Mhm.
so it's tough to really not imagine that they're not skewing it a little bit. Uh,
We talked earlier on this, your podcast, guyswhodostuff.com. Let me get that right this time because I had it written down right, but wrong on another place.
I think I've said it wrong on our show, so
Who's your,
yeah.
well, good. That makes me feel better. Been your favorite guest so far on that show and why?
I don't know. We've had a lot of one of the things I've learned is that, man, everybody has a really good story. Like, I
Mhm.
remember going into it thinking, like, "I'm really gonna like this one," and then, really ended up liking ones that I didn't know much about.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we've had a ton of interesting stories on the show. I got to interview Mike Lee, who's the founding pastor of that mega church
Cool.
pastor. That was a fun one for me. I consider him to be like a mentor. We got to interview a guy that had made like 1,000 porno movies and had come out of that, and now he runs a CrossFit gym and actually studying to go into church. We got to
Wow.
interview Chad Price, who's the CEO of Mako Medical, fastest growing company in the Triangle. Andy Andrews, who builds green skyscrapers.
Mhm.
It was pretty fantastic. It's been a very humbling experience to me to see the caliber of people that are all coming in with a very similar thing, is that they want to share what they've learned.
Yeah.
They really want to see other people succeed. They want to talk about, like, this is what I've learned early on, do this, don't do that kind of conversations. And yeah, and I live in the end of a cul-de-sac in Cary, and it's funny when it's Tuesday, my neighbors were like, "Where are all these people coming to your house?" Because they're like showing up in these really shiny, you know, Land Rovers and just coming and
So who all comes
chilling in
over
my
other than
basement.
Josh and the guest?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
So Tuesday nights you tape it.
Tuesday mornings. Yeah.
Tuesday mornings.
Mhm.
Okay. And then it's up on your website by when?
Sometime on Tuesday.
Okay. Sometime on Tuesday. Go to guyswhodostuff.com.
Yeah.
Who's your guest? Who's your guest for tomorrow?
So tomorrow's episode will be Stephen Hand from BNI.
Very nice. All right.
Mhm.
The man himself, he's a friend of the show, been on the
Mhm.
show. Wonderful stories. Ask him how he met his wife. Great story on a business he and his friend created to meet women.
Oh,
Okay. So
I
ask
missed
him.
it. We already
Yeah.
recorded it.
Oh,
That would
okay.
have
All
been
right.
nice to know.
Okay. So those are fun stories. All right. So you can get Joe at relevantmediasolutions.com. You can go visit him at his chapter RD02, Carry Connections, Mondays at 8:30 at the Maiden Inn. Goals for the second half of 2019 as far as growing the business. What are you looking to do or expand?
Yeah. So for the rest of this year, my goal for this year is I wanted to be at 20 clients.
Okay.
And one of the things that I like to do is not just be the typical, I don't want to pick on people. Some website companies only design for their portfolio.
Mhm.
And so what happens for a lot of people, 42% of people, is that they won't hear from their website designer again, or they're hard to reach out to, or I reached out to them and they didn't call me back, kind of stuff. But the part that bums me out is the cycle seems to be that 42% of people make zero meaningful improvements inside of a year to their website. And so the cycle that a lot of business owners get stuck in is paying for a new website every 2 years. And so
Yeah.
what
You had
I do
mentioned
is I
that.
like to be a long-term partner. I want to see people grow over time. I built a lot of websites. And what I do know is that a strategy needs testing and it takes time to grow. I like to use the analogy that websites can kind of be like newborns at times. That for the first year, they might just be crying and pooping, but eventually something changes and now it's like, wow, this is
Yeah.
really good. And I think it's kind of like not having that partner to go with you through the strategy and refine and say, oh, people are falling out on this page and this form isn't converting the
Yeah.
way we want. And so I like to come back and suggest meaningful suggestions once a quarter and make those suggestions. And I work off a retainer model.
Because everything changes in your general business model,
Yeah.
even without the website, things change every quarter,
Yeah.
every 6 months, and you have to apply the same principles to that too.
Yeah,
don't you?
absolutely. And that's why I think it's so great to work with a website professional. Like, if you're thinking about using a website professional, I know one of a good question is like, is this your side hustle? Because
Mhm.
my pitch always used to be when I had another job, like, you really don't want to use me. Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
call you last. For some reason, that pitch seemed to work. Like, people are like, oh, he's so honest. And I'm like, no, I'm literally describing poor service that I will provide if you go with, you're so honest.
Yeah.
Um, but now I get the pleasure of, if I learn a principle that's seemingly working good for a client, I can pass that
Yeah.
down to every site that I'm doing. And so you really get the best of my current knowledge, and everything is changing, like what you're saying.
Yep. Joe, we've enjoyed having you on the show today. Joe is owner of Relevant Media Solutions. Another reason to give him a call or go on his website. As he talked about earlier, there's many national ways you can go to build a website, but you've got to call a number if you want help. You probably have to put in a code, much like bigger banks, bigger insurance companies. Joe's local. He'll come out and help you. Again, he talks about the process and the plan. And if you're running or starting a small business, you better have processes in place and plans, and he'll be able to help you with that. So check him out at relevantmediasolutions.com. We thank you for joining us today to hear about Joe and his company, and we'll see you next week on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.